are you up to?
This is our life for the next.
This is our new normal. Do you have the shield?
No, I gotta give it up. Pretty so funny.
That one shield.
I should, yeah, I should put it like this. Alright. I'm already like feeling hot. I'm already like.
I'll catch you. We have the blue plastic ones. I feel like a dentist.
Alright, guys. Welcome to our temporary new norm. Waking up every day healthy seems more of a blessing than it did before. Having food in your pantry and your refrigerator seems like more of a blessing than it did before. The world as we know it is changing by the nanosecond, and it's all because of this terrible monster virus called COVID-19. In the world right now, there is panic buying, there's people are stockpiling things, mass hysteria as the media fuels this frenzy of a virus that is affecting us globally. I have so many people that have been DMing me and asking me, how is this affecting your daily routine? How is it changing for you at work? And so I figured I would sit down and just talk candidly. I didn't even really think about what I was gonna say. I just turned the camera on before I head to work just to talk to you guys about what's going on in my mind and what's going on at work and in the world. I am in no way a doctor. I am in no way a nurse. I am one of the people that is considered to be on, they're saying all healthcare professionals are on the front lines. And if you ask me, I think that each living being right now is on the front lines of this thing. We each play a very, very critical role in what is happening in the world. Every move that we make, one flick of the wrist could change the life of someone next to us, our neighbor, someone coming in after us. So I think for that reason alone, we are all on the front lines of this. And just to give you guys a little background, I am a cardiovascular ultrasound technologist. I do work for 2 healthcare systems in the central New Jersey area, and I also work for a private practice. As far as my morning routine goes, I get up business as usual, and I make my breakfast, I go about my day as usual. The only time that I kind of get a little anxiety is just before I step out of the door. After I've eaten my breakfast, taken my shower, talk to my family members for the morning before I start my day. As I'm walking out the door and I look at that door handle, that's when for a split second the anxiety kicks in. And I think about how every choice I'm going to make from that point on can ultimately affect someone else. And then by the time I get to my car and I talk myself, off that ledge and off that crazy, crazy train, I do, I'm able to drive to work okay. And as far as the drive to work, the commute is very eerie. I have to say that amidst everyone going crazy right now, because you got the spring breakers in Florida and you have idiots locally who still want to interact with their friends and go over and have, a hangout session, because this is not vacation. But I have to say, amidst of all of that, amidst of the few bad seeds, I have to say that I live in a downtown area of a city, and it is quiet. You may hear like the garbage, the sanitation people, or you may hear there's a dialysis center right behind me in a building, so you may hear the ambulance. But for the most part, it is very, very eerie. And the commute to work is very quiet. I have to say that for those of us who are still going into the hospitals and these various healthcare settings, it is very, very calming that your commute to work is, you're not honking horns and flipping people off because they're making stupid moves or there's traffic. You're able to peacefully prepare yourself for the day ahead, and the day ahead is changing every single day. Last week, I know a lot of healthcare systems, because of the limited supply, a lot of people were telling their employees, don't wear masks unless you're interacting with a patient, a possible rule out COVID patient or a COVID patient. And I literally was there on Tuesday, we were told not to wear masks, and then I came in on Friday and it was mandated. So it changes every single day. What I want to say about the medical supplies, those of you who are out there stockpiling things, it is really unnecessary. You don't need an N95 mask if you're not in a medical setting or you're in a space where you're dealing with somebody who has COVID. Now, I know someone's gonna say, well, what if I don't know if somebody next to me has COVID? You wouldn't be in that situation if you weren't self-quarantining, if you were not following strict orders to stay at home. So again, you don't need 195 masks in your home, because that's a slap in the face to those of us who need it, who potentially need it every single day at work. It is really, really unnecessary, people. You don't need to stockpile food, because I'm going to tell you something, and this is from my perspective. Last week, my cafeteria at my full-time hospital let us know that the cafeteria was closing. You must now bring your own utensils and your own food. So in order for me to get the nutrients I need to go out and perform at work on the front lines, I need to be able to go into my grocery store and pick up the things I need, because for us, it's work per usual. I'm going to get my gas per usual. I'm going to pick up my groceries per usual. Stopping us from doing those things, it's really not helping. So I urge you all, you know, don't listen to the craziness that's going on. If you do need to step out of your house to pick up your essentials, absolutely. You don't need to get a year's worth of supplies. You don't need to get 6 months or 3 months worth of supplies. You are able to step out of your house for essentials, but you don't need to stockpile. Again, I am not a doctor, I am not a nurse, but I have been working in a clinical setting for a few years, so I do have some sort of perspective about what's happening right now. As far as work is concerned and the morale, we're all coming together, and it's a really, really good feeling. I'm a part of various medical groups on Facebook and in other spaces where we can talk openly about how we're feeling. Like I said, sometimes having anxiety walking out of the door. I don't have a family here, but I have a lot of coworkers who have spouses and children. The anxiety around bringing something home to them it's great and it's real. And these conversations need to be had. I watched a TED Talks this morning with my cousin, Whitney. Hey, Whitney. She co-hosted a TED Talks, and they talked about the mental health piece of all this.
Thanks so much, Kristen. It's so great to hear what everyone else is thinking. Those questions are wonderful. And I mean, and Sue, to your last comment about children and how you can really have conversations with them about what's going on. You know, a lot of them may be experiencing some of that we're all experiencing, but maybe with a little more confusion because they have less life experience. And so how can we talk to children, if there are parents out there, about what's going on out there and how they can deal with their emotions? You
have so many students, children, who are missing monumental events in their adolescence, proms, junior proms, you know, graduations, field trips. They're missing all these things. So the anxiety and the potential depression that's associated with this stay-at-home order is real. And I urge people, if you need to talk to your mental health professional, I know for a fact that they're still taking video calls or taking phone calls. Reach out to them, because again, like I said earlier, we are all facing this. My cousin said to me, you know, thank you for what you're doing on the front lines. And I said, no, we're all, globally, we are all on the front lines. Every single one of us. One wrong move, someone else is affected. So I in turn thanked her for complying and staying at home and doing, you know, what the government, the state and local officials are asking you to do. And it's not to minimize and say, oh, it's easy to just stay home. I am not minimizing that. I am okay because I'm an introvert like that, but I know a lot of people are struggling, and I've snapped on a few people who are struggling with the social distance, and I need to apologize to someone else, but it's difficult. We're all fighting it, but we have to err on the side of better judgment for the greater cause, for us globally. We all have to do our part. We haven't even seen anything yet. This is day 20 something, like I said, I can't remember exactly, but we are going to get into the thick of things. One of the healthcare systems that I work for, I got an automated phone call last night saying, we're asking employees to work at the testing site. The third testing site in New Jersey in Union County was opening up today. I replied yes and said that I would. They got back to me late, but I may go on Thursday. If I get the call, I'll be assisting with the testing at the drive-through sites in Union County. And they will provide all of the proper PPE for us, and we will get paid for that. But I am not above, there's, you know, doing things that are not paid. You know, if people need grocery runs, I have to go out anyway. So I've let certain people in my life know, listen, I have to go out to do my daily things. I have to do my weekly grocery run. So if you need something, let me know. And I think that it's important in these times to have that human touch. And while social distancing, you can still do something good for your neighbor. For example, my neighbors let me use their rice cooker last night. We practiced social distancing. It was like sat outside the door. We didn't come in contact with each other. These things can still happen. So that's just kind of like my perspective. I think I talked about how it changes, how it's been changing at work. Yeah, it's big. What we're dealing with is really big, you guys, and I want everyone, I can't stress enough when I talk about trying to relax, that does not minimize it. That does not minimize the severity of the situation that we're dealing with. I'm just saying, take a deep breath and don't hyperanalyze, don't overreact, just be smart, be confident in the things that you're doing. Just to give you guys a little perspective on remaining calm, a little story time for you. We all, when faced with something for the first time, I don't care what it is respectively, we have all had that moment where you're panic stricken and you're like, oh my God, I wanna make sure I do everything right. So I'm leaving work a couple weeks ago and I leave at 4, like 3:20, we get a phone call. They need 2 stat ultrasounds on rule out COVID patients. And I'm thinking, I'm already like rushing to clean up my lab so I can go home. And now I'm like, oh my goodness. I'm with a new tech who's phenomenal. Me saying she's new is not to minimize her expertise. But you know, so I've been there for 10 years. So she kind of, you know, in that moment was looking to me like, what do we do? And I said, okay, in that moment, we're not going to even question if this is medically necessary, because what we've been doing is to try to minimize the risk to the healthcare professionals who are not nurses and doctors. So we're really looking at, are these tests medically necessary? Can it wait until the person is no longer a rule out COVID, so we know we're definitely walking into a patient's room who does have the virus, or can it wait in general? Does this test really need to be done? So in that moment, I said to her, we don't really have time to make the proper phone calls and do the investigation to see if this needs to be done. We're gonna go do these patients. And the look on her face was like, oh my goodness. And I said, you'll be fine. And I'm over here prepping her and, you know, pumping her up like, you got this, you know what to do, be confident. And I sent her off, I go off on my way, and I get to my patient's room, and literally I felt like I was drenched in sweat. Not because I did not know the scope of my profession, but in that moment, I just started to have that panic-stricken moment where I thought, oh my goodness, one wrong move and I could screw this up for a lot of people. I don't know if you guys have seen that module that shows one person who doesn't stay at home and how it affects this amount of people. And like, I thought about that module, the stay home module, and thought you can equally apply that to just not doing the proper thing and how it can affect other people. So those kind of things were going through my mind, and I'm thinking, yeah, I'm just panicked. And typically I've heard from my other coworkers, other people who have gone into these rooms, you know, there's, you know, one person out there that's telling you what you need to do. You have a coworker who's tying you up in the back and prepping you as you get to go in as you prepare to go into the room. And I was up there by myself. The following is not from the story that I'm describing. It is footage of me in the CCU preparing to go into a patient's room today, March 23rd, 2020.
Here and there. And I'll give you some pad.
Okay, thank you.
Because he coughs a lot.
Okay. So I was kind of, for the first time, I've done patients since then and I'm fine, but that first time I was like, oh my God. So I try to calm myself down because I need to walk in confident and comforting to this patient, right? So I take a deep breath, I go into the room, and I look at the man lying on the bed. I just immediately started to hyperventilate. And I'm like, hello, I'm gonna be doing your test. This is the test, this is my name, this is how long it takes. I'm rambling, telling him what I'm gonna do, but meanwhile, my heart is racing. I cannot breathe. I have on goggles, an N95, a surgical mask, a headpiece, and like a gown. And so all of that sweating and anxiety in general, coupled with the fact that you have on layers in a room that is not, aerated. So I said to the gentleman, normally I stand up to do my test, and I sit down when I'm in my lab, or when I'm at the bedside. When I go bedside, I stand up because it's just, you want to get in and out quick. But my anxiety told me, grab a seat, sit down to calm your nerves. So I pull the chair over and I go to sit down, and then I'm like, I have to pee. Oh my God. And then I'm like, if you need to use the bathroom, you have to degown, take off everything, clean yourself, step out of the room, use the bathroom, and come back and do it all over again. So I started taking deep breaths like I'm telling myself, you don't have to use the bathroom, you don't have to use the bathroom. You could see how heavy I'm breathing, and the patient looked at me and he said, everything okay? And I was like, yeah. And I start, I'm shuffling, and he sort of like extended his arm. He didn't touch me, he extended his arm, and he said, I'm gonna be okay. You're gonna be okay. We are all going to be okay as a world. And I took a deep breath, and just him comforting me. Now I'm supposed to be comforting this man, okay? But him comforting me and realizing that this is not the time to give into this mass hysteria. Be smart, be vigilant, be alert, be confident, and be calm. And so that when I left his room, mind you, after I finished his test, we found ourselves, bantering back and forth. I had to like force myself to leave, like, okay, he is a sick patient, you need to get back and do your reports and go home. But it was just a reminder that we don't have to play into this mass hysteria. We're all human beings, and we've all gone through something, we're all gonna go through something. And it's for us to relax. It turned out to be an okay situation, and like I said, I've been fine ever since that. But coming in contact, people said to me, like, what is it like when you come in contact with that first patient? And I told them, but then I'm like, you know what? I probably come in contact with a lot of people, because as testing is not readily available, we don't know who has it and who doesn't. We're only looking at severe cases. We're looking at people who are critically or severely symptomatic. So without that, I don't know who has it and who doesn't, which again is why we should be staying home. I can't drive that point home enough that we need to stay home. But yeah, so a few people had asked me what it was like with the first patient, and it was fine. And the rule-out patients, we don't know if they're being sent home from the hospital because they're a mild case. We don't know if they're being sent home quarantined or they're being discharged because they're negative. You know what I mean? Like we never know that part of it. So yeah, just to give you a little perspective on that part. And that is pretty much it, you guys. For my luxury watchers, I said to myself, I am not doing any luxury videos during this time. I have to focus on other things, and I may be used. Like I said, I'm going to a testing site hopefully on Thursday to assist with that. And I'm like, I have so much going on, I can't even think about anything luxury. And then I thought about it and I said, you know what? I'm telling people to take their mind off of it, but yet be vigilant and alert. So why can't I too? So I am going to try to carve out some time to make some videos, do some comparison videos, and just bring the overall, try to bring the happy back to YouTube. I see a lot of YouTubers in our respective genres are still letting their fans know, their subscribers know that they're going to be putting out content because they want it to be business as usual while people are at home. You want to keep people's spirits up. People are watching now more than ever. So I will be working on some videos for you guys. Thank you so much for your love and your support. Thank you for what you're doing by staying at home. If you are one of my fellow medical professionals, thank you guys for what you're doing as well. And together we will flatten this curve. Together we will overcome this monster of a virus that we are dealing with every single day. I love you all. Stay safe, and I'll see you in my next video.